Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Democratic View. I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and I have with me one of the heroes of East Hampton today, and his name is Dell Cullum. He's the guy that helps keep our area clean and neat, and also looks after our wildlife. A naturalist who is going to tell us a story about a place that he's been that is very fascinating. Tell us where you went.
I will. Thanks, Phyllis, for having me back. And I always love your introductions because I love how nice you are. You say some very nice things. And you always do, on air and off air, about me, and I appreciate that. I really enjoy being here. I have just returned after I say just returned, and I'll tell you why. I actually returned in the end of January, but I was in the Galapagos. And the reason I feel, and I say I just returned, is because I've been working on a film about it, and I'm living it every day, still, since I returned. And it's an odd feeling because it's almost like I'm not enjoying the memories of the trip because I never came back. I've never stopped. The trip hasn't stopped yet. It's reliving it every day.
Listen, even if you weren't making that film, you would be still talking about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm sure it was a life-changing event.
It absolutely was.
Now, let me just, for the sake of maybe some people who don't know, where are the Galapagos Islands?
The Galapagos Islands is approximately 675 miles due west of Ecuador, off the coast of South America.
Right.
There's a number of islands. I believe there's 18 or 19, some say 19, total islands. However, there's another 112 islets and rocks that are big enough to, be seen and are mentioned and shown on maps. There's also 3 unnamed islands. So the whole archipelago that makes up the Galapagos is quite a few, is a huge area. It's just, I can't think of the square miles off the top of my head. I think it's somewhere around 17,000, which is amazing.
In the Pacific.
In the Pacific, yeah.
And also, I want to remind people, in case they forgot, but the Galapagos Islands play a very important part of our scientific history because there was a man who was an unsuccessful student, and he went on a trip on a boat, and they stopped at the Galapagos Islands, and what he saw there began what we call the theory of evolution.
That's correct.
And it is an amazing story, and at some point you should Google it, read about it, because the man named Charles Darwin wrote a book called Origins of the Species in the late 1800s that changed the way we look at science. Really quite an impact.
Absolutely.
And it all happened right where you were.
Yeah, and the more interesting thing about the Galapagos is much of the islands remains exactly the same as when he visited. The islands are very young in the grand scheme of time. They're not that old, and my journey took us to several of the islands to get to the main island where we started our adventure, and that was on the island of Isabella. And Isabella is the biggest island and has 6 volcanoes on it. And it's those 6 volcanoes that took 6 separate land masses and made them into the biggest island of the Galapagos archipelago. It's a beautiful island. Everything that you can think of about the Galapagos can be found right there on Isabella. It's quite an alive island. It feels like life. It just has such an incredible aura, and as you explore it, you learn why. The species that are on the Galapagos, many of them are only found in the Galapagos. They have a species of shark, the Galapagos shark, the Galapagos sea lion. Obviously, we all know about the Galapagos tortoise.
Yes. Yes.
As well as the marine iguana. And all these animals, because there's so little human interaction between these animals and humans over all these years, and presently still, it's quite easy to find yourself close to these animals, to get good looks, and to watch them continue to evolve. I mean, you can literally sit there and watch a marine iguana feed and jump in the water and eat, and from a real close perspective, where of course you're not disturbing the animal. However, you're getting an up close perspective of how this animal lives, not just watching an animal sit there like you would at a zoo or perhaps a sanctuary where animals are used to humans. These animals aren't. And a journey like we took even gave us a little bit more of an exclusive look at the island.
And how did you get to go on this trip?
I was very, very fortunate. As you know, I'm a wildlife photographer. So I was chosen by a local artist, Billy Strong. He's also an environmentalist. And does in kind of what I like to call environmental art, building sculptures out of debris. He's a world traveler, and he goes around and educates people in some of these more uneducated areas about what trash and debris does to communities and to people. He's a firm believer of the way you treat your environment reflects on the way you treat yourself. And by that measure, his mission is to reach all these people and show them a positive side to, as he's educating them about the debris, he also gets with people and builds art at it, and teaches them how to build art out of the debris, and kind of that's how he gets the message and the education across. He doesn't only do this with the children, however, he does this with communities and the leaders of the communities. He's done some great work. I was fortunate to be asked to go with him this past year for this 30-day journey because he had visited this island the previous year and saw a huge amount of debris on the coastlines of Isabella, more specifically in areas that humans haven't even had contact with yet. Yet our footprint was all over it. And I don't mean the footprint from your foot. I mean our trash and debris. And it was obvious that the debris to him was coming from tour boats, merchant vessels, commercial fishermen, and of course, just the general filth that we all know is smothering our living oceans. So, with that in mind, Billy got with an environmentalist in Isabella and made arrangements to do a special project. And of course, the people of Ecuador didn't really want to support that. They love the tourism part, but as far as the cleanup, they're not so anxious to have that done, or really have a way to do it. It's monstrous. It would blow you away if you saw the garbage that are on the shorelines of this, as we know, a very pristine place. Many people, Phyllis, don't realize, people come and say, oh, the Galapagos, how do you stay there? What do you do? Do they have places to live? Do you live on the beach? No, there's communities, there's churches, there's schools, there's garbage, okay? Where there are people, there is garbage. And it's a fishing village. These people, fish for their food, and their agriculture is all right there. And they just don't have a future plan for what they do with their debris. And that is slowly smothering this beautiful place. And they need to be educated because there's still time for them to correct this. However, the shorelines are just incredibly polluted.
Filthy. Filthy stuff.
It breaks your heart, and if I think about it really strongly about how real it was, it really upsets me. So I kind of have to, I think about it and I talk about it with you, and then I got to take a moment and just take a breath, because it's that bad, and it's heartbreaking. And these animals, like I say, some of these animals have never seen humans, yet they're living in our filth, in their habitat, in their environment. So we were fortunate to, we weren't able to get the authorization, Phyllis, but we took it upon ourselves to take the chance, and we hired a captain who was very concerned about this issue. He lived there, he fished there. He was concerned for his family and the future of his home. So he took us around the island of Isabella, which was, we planned it to be a 14-day journey. It was very difficult. It took us 12 days, and we were anxious to get home. But what we saw in those 12 days is such an incredible story. And I'm anxious to share it with you and everyone. Of course, I mentioned to you this summer we're going to premiere it at the Mulford Farm, August 15th through September 15th. There'll be a premiere date. I believe it'll be that following Sunday. However, at that point, everyone will get to see not just the beauty of our adventure, but really what we went there for. And it was to show the world the seriousness of our situation in our oceans. And what happens there, Phyllis, really does affect us here. We have the same issues here. You can ask any of our wonderful groups in Montauk, some of the surfers, the Surfrider Organization, Seacom. You could ask them, how are your beaches? How's Ditch Plains looking? I have been there with these cleanup groups and surfers and cleaned Ditch Plains, spotless. And the next day, you'd think a ship crashed out to sea and all the belongings washed up on shore. The trash that comes to our shorelines all along East Hampton, from Montauk all the way up the island, happens overnight. And in some of these more accumulative areas like Ditch Plains, it can really make your head spin. Unless you see it, you really don't know about it. But I've seen overnight, night and day on that beach. It's amazing what happens overnight.
Wow.
And I know you use the beach, Phyllis. I know you have your favorite spot.
Certainly do.
And I know you're constantly picking up. You won't stand.
You bet.
To have garbage on your beach.
You bet. I never walk away
without.
Usually it's on my way to the water that I clean up and I make a little pile, and then after I've had my swim, I take that pile and I put it in the trash, and wonder who's doing this to my area, throwing all this trash around.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, unfortunately, although there are land-based issues, what's happening out to sea and coming on our shores is horrible. And it's happening everywhere, all the islands and beautiful places around the world. And Billy made that clear to me. He's told me, all these beautiful islands like Fiji and Samoa and the islands off of Africa that he's visited, they're all the same. They all have shorelines full of ocean debris. And it's really a time now that we really got to start putting our heads together and thinking about it. And that's why Billy chose the Galapagos Islands to have me make this film, which is a documentary. And what a perfect place. Because like I said, when I mentioned to you the Galapagos, what do you think?
I think Darwin.
Yeah, and you think,
the origin of the species.
Untouched,
Yeah.
very isolated,
Yeah.
not a lot of people. It's not like that at all. It's very much different. And different, there's a lot more good than bad, but the bad is going to overtake the good if we don't do something about it now. So
yes,
we made our message in this film, and we hope that it'll get spread worldwide and be seen by people around the world, and they'll get a better idea that nobody gets a pass when it comes to our ocean debris. It'll affect us all, and it will kill us. It will kill us.
Gosh. Well, I just hope that people are understanding that even though you're not on the Galapagos Islands, you are responsible for making sure that you take care of your trash. I recycle everything. Everything. I don't care whether they want it or not. I recycle it. If I open up something and it's got a little thin plastic around it,
It's
goes
plastic.
back to the store. In those places, that's the way. You give me plastic, I give you plastic back.
Wow.
I refuse to use soap for my shower anymore out of those plastic things.
Mm-hmm.
I use a bar soap, and I wish to God I could get shampoo in glass again. I would be willing to handle it in my shower. It's just absolutely outrageous. I see people with bottles and bottles and bottles of plastic. And it's all over the place. And we know that the microscopic phytoplankton is what it's called, and zooplankton, who are the bottom of the food chain, have strands of plastic cells in them. And it's
And the
unbelievable.
fish that we eat are eating those planktons and those plastics, and we are eating those fish. And it's all going to come together in a most horrible way, in a most unhealthy way.
Sometimes we're going to have hair that's going to grow in hair that's plastic.
Plastic. The very first beach, and you'll see in the movie, that we land on is a beautiful black sand beach. And the only reason we knew it was black sand is because we had to move away the debris and realized it was black. It was completely, the entire beach, from cliff to rock jetty, to the rocks that were the two sides of the beach, completely covered with plastic bottles. Not one section of sand this big could be seen without moving the bottles aside.
Oh my.
This one picture at the beginning of the movie, how we started this adventure, will completely set the tone and catch your attention for this movie, because it's that striking. And you know, I know I said, it's we have these same issues, and we do. Fortunately, the people of Ecuador, and believe me, beautiful people and very hospitable in the Galapagos. I loved them. They were wonderful, and very willing to learn and be educated on this, looking for help. These people here are much more attentive now. And I'm happy to say that. I mean, the 3 years I've been doing the Shoreline sweep, which is coming up on April 23rd, or which is Earth Day, and we're doing a huge cleanup team up. We're actually, our Shoreline sweep is going to team up with the Concerned Citizens of Montauk and all their sponsors from the Trails Preservation Society and the Surf Rider Organization. Of course, I'll have the East Hampton Middle School a Junior Surf Rider Club, and John Ryan's group, John Ryan Jr.'s group, and the Ocean Rescue people and the lifeguards and all the people and the Amagansett Chamber. They're all going to come out. We're going to have one huge team up for Earth Day and clean East Hampton as best we can. And we do these things, and we have the opportunities to. And we have resources like the East Hampton Town, which has said they would offer the bags if I needed the bags. And we have some of these resources, and we have groups. They don't there in Ecuador. They will get to that point. That's why we can maintain our situation, even as bad as it is.
Right.
They can't.
Right.
They still need push and education and push and education. We here, as I was saying, I'm very happy to say that in the 3 years I've been involved with the Shoreline Sweep, East Hampton has become so much better as far as the visible trash and debris on our roadsides and our beaches and our shorelines. I'm happy to say that. We have many more volunteer groups. We have so many more people that are so attentive to the issue, who carry a bag with them and don't mind, picking up a little garbage while they're waiting on their to pick up their kids from school, or when they're walking through the nature trail park. They don't mind picking up somebody else's garbage, which was always a problem. I didn't put it there. Why do I have to pick it up?
Yeah.
Okay? That's slowly fading out, that mentality.
Well, we're very vigilant.
And thank goodness for that. And I got to give this town credit for their attentiveness and their continued perseverance in trying to solve this issue. And I thank them for all their support, and thank you for letting me mention it as well.
Well, the truth of the matter is we must all be vigilant at all times. I know when I go swimming down at Flaggy Hole, which is Gardener's Bay, I always say, when people say, do you have a pool at your house? I say, sure I do. It's called Gardener's Bay. And I park my car down there, and I just pick up all of those cigarette butts that people, and my daughter says to me, people have had them in their mouth. And I say, I don't care. I pick them up. And I never go in the water that I haven't gone back to throw things into the, and when I'm swimming at this other little place, which I'm not even going to mention because it's my private place, before I go in the water, I make a big pile. And then when I come out of the water, I take that pile and I go and put it in the trash. I mean, we all have to do that all the time. We have to.
We do.
Yeah. And we all also have to teach people not to do those kind of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Individually, we need to all be involved. In groups, that's fine too. Yeah. The leaders of our community, they're all in it now. They're all on board. We have all the community, the commercial businesses, they're all getting it. The residents, they're on board. With the Adopt a Road program, Stephen Lynch brought back to life. Thank God for that. It's doing so good. I mean, you just have to drive down some of these roads and see it.
Yes.
And this thing about the beach, the ones that did the mess over there on Navy Beach, and the fines that were given out. There's your example. There's what's going to happen. There's a good indication of the way we're going to treat this situation in this town. And I thank Larry and everyone involved, and of course Judge Tukulski for making this an example.
Holding
So
people
will-
responsible.
Holding people responsible, because it's going to make a big difference now. It is.
And
It
folks,
is.
here's what you got to remember. The name of this place and what most of us make our living out of is called beach. And that beach must be clean. We must have pristine beaches and clear water. And the only way we can do it is if we're absolutely taking care of it at all times.
Yeah.
Just like you do with your inside of your house, you got to do it with the world. We all have to do it. There's only one earth.
That's it.
And whatever part of it you're in, you got to take care of.
Yeah, yeah. That's
All
it.
right, so we're going to keep on with this. And happily, there's even a project going on in the East Hampton schools where
I saw that. Yep, the high school.
kids are getting involved. And that is the way to do it. We got to teach the young.
Absolutely. It's going to be their bag, and we don't want to leave it to them full of garbage. Let's give them a clean bag, and then they can maintain it and make the world a better place. And they
Dell,
will.
I introduced you as my hero, and you are.
Well,
you
I
really
thank you.
are.
That's very nice.
Thank you so much for coming and telling us about it.
Anytime. I can't wait to come back again.
Me too. I love listening to what you. My mouth is open most of the time listening to you.
Well, thanks, Phyllis.
It's wonderful,
Thank you.
really.
Thank you.
And I am going to go to the Galapagos Islands.
I can't wait to hear your stories. You'll see the good stuff, too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.